And welcome back. These are my 5 fermentation mistakes to avoid and how you can prevent them from happening. At the end, I'll share my biggest mistakes and why you should not be scared when this happens. Let's jump right in. Mistake number 5, not allowing sufficient time for fermentation. Patience is key when it comes to fermentation. Sometimes it's simply slow to start because there's not enough microbes to get going quickly. Sometimes it'll be super active in the first 24 hours and then begin to slow down over on the type of fermentation and the environmental factors. The process can take anywhere from a few days to several weeks. But once you reach 3 or 4 weeks, then one of 2 things will happen. Either your project has reached full fermentation. This means all fermentables have been converted and nothing is left to convert. Or second, the environment is no longer suitable for activity. In other words, the pH or alcohol levels are too high to continue converting. Both are good signs that your fermentation is working well and you are on the right track. After the 3 to 4 week mark, you are mostly aging at this point. The sharp tastes and those esters that form during the fermentation process get broken down and mellow out. Ending your fermentation too early can result in an underdeveloped flavor and textures and higher concentrations of off flavors. So, trust the process and give your ferments the time they need to fully mature, including the aging process. Mistake number 4, ignoring temperature. Temperature plays a significant role in the fermentation process. Too hot and your fermentation happens too quickly. Ferments that happen too fast form strange and unpredictable off flavors. In lacto-fermentation, high temperatures can encourage the wrong microbes to grow, such as yeasts. Specifically, this can encourage calm yeast to thrive, which is the bane of all fermenters' existence. Check out my upcoming video on how to identify calm yeast, what to do if you have it, and how to prevent it. If the temperature is too cold and fermentation slows down, it still happens, but happens very, very slowly. If you run into this problem of slow fermentation because of temperatures, you can wrap your ferment in a blanket and place it in a window. Do not allow the sun to directly hit the fermentation. UV light can also damage your precious microbes. Mistake number 3, inadequate sanitation. One of the most crucial steps to fermentation is a clean environment for those beneficial microbes to thrive. Make sure all of your equipment, jars, utensils, and your final bottles are thoroughly cleaned and sanitized before they touch your fermentation. Soap and water work, boiling your equipment for 10 minutes, or using no-rinse sanitizers are all effective. Even a small amount of unwanted microbes can spoil an entire batch. This is especially true for alcohol fermentations, where you're trying to cultivate a specific yeast strain. However, with lacto-fermentation, this is less important because lactobacillus bacteria is everywhere, and that is specifically what you want to cultivate. You can still have problems later on in the fermentation process due to bad sanitation practices. I'll dive into that at the very end. But here is mistake number 2. Mistake 2, container selection. There are many, many ways to ferment and many different containers you can choose from. So, where is the mistake? The mistake is when you choose a container not appropriate for your schedule, meaning some setups are better as watch and maintain on a daily basis while others are leave and forget. Ferments are most active in the first few weeks. If you use the leave and forget method, you need a container that can release the CO2 buildup. The most common tool here is a one-way valve. This will also depend if you want to keep the carbonation in the ferment or not. Some kombuchas, ginger beers, and alcohols can be fermented under pressure, and you want to keep those bubbles. For these fermentations, you will need a container that you can burp frequently to remove the CO2 buildup. Burping is simply opening the jar to release that pressure. This will need to be done every day, sometimes multiple times a day. And finally, mistake number 1. This is specific to lactofermentation, using the wrong salt or brine concentration. Salt is essential to lactofermentation for creating a suitable environment for beneficial bacteria, while inhibiting the growth of harmful ones. Use too much and your fermentation might stall. Use too little and your fermentation can spoil. Generally, you are safe between 2% and 3.5% salt concentration. Some ferments can go as high as 5%. Why is this important? Most bad microbes cannot survive in high salt concentrations. This encourages the right microbes, the lactobacillus, to thrive and turn your ferment into something sour and delicious. Bonus tip. Sometimes you might see something on top of your fermentation and think, oh no, this has gone so bad, let's toss it. The general rule here is if it looks bad, smells bad, and or tastes bad, definitely toss it. Anything green, blue, brown, red, or fuzzy should be tossed. If you ferment at too high of a temperature, if you are not careful with sanitation, and if you introduce too much oxygen into your ferment, you will most likely grow something weird. This is something every fermenter experiences, and while it might look dangerous, it most likely is not. You can check out this video to learn how to identify if it is bad or not. So a common mistake people make is tossing a perfectly fine ferment because it looks scary. If you did get a weird white film that looks like this, you have comm yeast, and you can still rescue it. Comm yeast needs access to oxygen to survive, and it does not survive in high alcohol or acidic environments. For a brine, if you are only a few days into the process, scoop it out as much as you can, empty the liquid, and add new brine to the ferment. Bump up the salt percent if you need to. If you are a few weeks into the ferment, then you can add new brine or simply add vinegar to the ratio you are aiming for. You will lose that probiotic, but that's okay. You still save your vegetables. If you are doing a mash fermentation, your comm yeast will look slightly different because it has a lot less liquid access. It might look like spots or strings on the edges of your container. You can scoop that out, or you can simply mix it into the acidic liquid underneath that mash. Note that comm yeast does affect the taste of your final fermentation. And there you have it, folks. By steering clear of these common pitfalls, you will be well on your way to mastering the art of fermentation and enjoying that delicious probiotic-rich food at home. If you like this content, please hit that like and subscribe to my channel for more fermentation tips and tricks. Thank you for watching, and happy fermenting. Check out my other videos to learn more about fermentation